It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back, you beautiful souls. Thank you so much for joining us. It was with some trepidation that I started entering into kind of the prep for this particular discussion, because it's probably one of the most important that we can have in this country or in the world right now, this polarized world that we live in. Almost 3 decades after democracy was ushered into this beautiful country, Mzansi still faces a crisis. And if you think it isn't, well, you are wrong. One of the sources of social discontent in post-apartheid South Africa is the legacy of racism. This is evident in racialized inequality and microaggressions that you're probably not even aware of, and sometimes even blatant calls for racial violence, as documented in the Belinda Magor saga.
Yeah, so today we are going to be chatting about racism in post-apartheid South Africa, which is happening right now. And we're featuring a writer, poet, and activist, Ashanti Kunene, as well as Christopher Logan, the brave young man you may have seen online standing up against racism to protect the dignity of his friend. I absolutely love it. And if you have any thoughts or experiences to share, of course, come through. Send us a voice note and use the number 063-408-8863, because we'd love to hear your opinion on the matter. But first up, let's say good morning to our guests. How are we doing?
Good morning. Well, it's early.
I know, I'm
tired.
sorry. And it doesn't get any easier. You're just going to get more tired as the day progresses. And it's not like we're trying to save the world or anything right now.
No, no.
Maybe we are. Maybe we are. Christopher, Chris, what can I call you about? I know you guys go way back.
Yeah, man.
Whatever you want. Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah, good to see you.
I suppose I want to say well done, you know, but do we say well done when you're doing something that everyone should be doing when put in that situation? Talk us through what happened in that moment, because so much has been said about this video. It's obviously gone viral. So much has been spoken about. It's polarized people, as we'd expect. Take us to the heart of what actually happened there and why you couldn't just not do anything.
Sure. Well, firstly, thank you for having me on. And
Pleasure, man.
I think the way you framed it in terms of, do you say well done or not? I don't think so. I think it should be an expectation. In terms of what specifically happened, a friend of mine, coming on 2 weeks now, went to a bar in town, Hanks, and went with another friend of mine, Jordan, who happens to be a white man, and Tabiso, who happens to be a black man. Jordan walks into this bar. Moments afterwards, Tabiso tries to walk in. The bouncer pulls him out of the crowd, asks him, "Why are you going in?" He says, I want to go in. Got a friend in. And he says, "No, you can't come in here. You can't come in here like this. You need to be accompanied by a white person." What? And Tabiso, immediately being very taken aback, says, "You know, how is this possible?" He says, "No, black people in this country, they steal, they cause trouble, they can't come in. That's why you need to be accompanied by a white man." And then he further asked him, "You know, how do you say this?" He said, "No, this is what the bosses tell me to do." Jordan then exits because he's wondering, where's Tabiso? And then as soon as the bouncer realizes that Tabiso has a white friend with him, he's allowed to go in.
Welcome to South Africa.
But how? I think you know, even people who sit on the more extreme end of this ridiculous scale that still exists are sitting there thinking, what century are we in right now?
Yeah.
What then prompted you to then step up and take action? Because I would imagine you know nightclub owners, you know bouncers, you know people in that space.
Yeah.
And it's not a forgiving place to go and put your hand up or get in someone's face.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I wasn't there for the incident on the night, but I found out the next morning. And honestly, I couldn't think of anything else as soon as I heard it. This is my friend, a place that I can walk in without issue. And I felt like I couldn't look at myself in the mirror with respect if I just heard something like this and let it go by. You know, Tabiso was one of my best friends. I love him. And it wouldn't be right for me to just let it go by.
He's a mate at the heart of everything. He's a mate of yours.
That's all I am in this situation, is Tabiso's friend.
Now, kudos, man, and I think that's important, being a friend and looking beyond this thing that we still see as color. And I still think to myself, how are we still there? How is this still happening? It's shocking to me. And clearly we all still get uncomfortable about it. Ashanti, maybe I can ask you, because it's not just this blatant form of racism that we're experiencing so often, but it's also insidious forms of it as well, right? We spoke about it earlier. I mean, G mentioned microaggressions, right? And that's something that's now becoming quite a common thing. Has it naturally occurred? What are some examples of it maybe? And do you have anything more to share on that?
Yeah, so the first thing I will say that there's nothing micro about the aggressions. These aggressions happen on every level of
It's a sliding scale,
It's a sliding scale. And we speak about the architecture of apartheid. It is in everything in our society, right? And it is in, those instances where you are left feeling unsure about yourself or doubting yourself. It's in circumstances where your boss might be threatened by the quality of work you are submitting and tell you you haven't done a good job, but that same boss will go and take your work and present it to the higher ups as their own idea. It is this, think of it as an undercover agent. I can't be blatantly racist. Now I'm undercover with my things. I'm subtle, I'm behind the scenes, I'm deceitful with it, And it reflects the gap between what we say, that we're equal and we're free, and what we actually do. So that space, this is where white supremacy thrives. Racism thrives in the spaces between what we say and what we do. When our walk does not match our talk, this is where this emerges from.
And what do you do when you look to the West? You look to America and you think maybe we can see this bastion of, and then you get a white supremacist at the head of the free world.
Like Trump.
That's the gift we get. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the gift we get,
I want to think about this being taken a step further. It's not even wearing a face sometimes. It's societal when you've got to recode how you talk and how you look
100%.
to be able to fit in within a particular culture.
100%.
I have no doubt that this is triggering you as much as it is triggering every person who is watching this right now, which is a good thing. You need to feel emotion about this. This must make you angry. This must want to inspire action within you. But most importantly, get the conversation started in your personal space. So how are we going to do that? Let us know. 063 408 8863. Save the world with us. Come on, give us a tip.
I love it.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yes, Mzansi, welcome back. Your Feel Good Breakfast Show, and we are carrying on with a pertinent discussion right now, and our panel is here about the topic racism. Now, after the recent viral video at the pub in Cape Town brought to light how far we have yet to go. However, we are not alone in this fight. Now, most recently, Kyla Spring, a first-year student in Kentucky, USA, had to endure verbal and physical abuse at the hands of a senior student, with racial slurs being yelled at her over 200 times in the span of only a 10-minute video. Absolutely ridiculous. But we're going to continue with the discussion on racism with our poet and activist. Of course, it's Ashanti Kunene in the building, as well as Christopher Logan. And if, of course, you have any thoughts or experiences that you want to share with us right now, come through, use our voice note line. That's 063 408 8863. But let us continue with this conversation.
Rise above. Ashanti, rise above it. You're better than that. You're stronger than that.
Respectfully.
Hey, is that
Respectfully,
now the expectation that you must just do that? For the 1% that are able to move through that space without having to and I say 1% loosely, it might be 0.5% that are fortunate enough not to face that kind of abuse at some point in their life. Do you feel that that's the expectation on you as a black woman, that you've just got to rise above it?
I mean, that might be the expectation, but it doesn't mean I necessarily listen, I think we've been rising above and beyond for a very long time, and clearly that isn't working for us, so we need to find different tactics. And I also think that if you have the capacity to rise above, please go, by all means, go ahead. But I do think that the social costs of being racist or facing discrimination need to increase. So no, call the person out, make it known, make it uncomfortable. Like, if you want to be a racist, by all means, be a racist. But know that after an encounter with me, you will go home knowing that you were racist in this moment. How you feel about that is your issue. So I think that's for you to deal with, So I think we do need to start being more brave and hold people accountable, and don't be afraid of the consequence. Have courage of your convictions, because we have been rising above, and clearly something is not working with that strategy. So.
Yeah, and I like that. And maybe on the flip side of rising above, I mean, you mentioned courage, you mentioned the fact that we need to stand out. Chris, you had that moment literally faced in front of the moment right now.
Yes.
You had a choice to kind of, I guess, fight or flight. And many people have this varied reaction to your video. Maybe you came in a bit too hard, maybe you're a bit frustrated, but you did what you felt you needed to do. What are your thoughts on the matter? Do you think you went a bit overboard, or do you think you expressed yourself exactly the way you needed to? Do you think the statement was made?
Yeah, I think, to put it maybe nice, I was very passionate in that video, and I was very upset. And I think that being that upset about what happened to my friend is justified. And just seeing him in such a compromised position, and honestly, there's a perception that that's normal and that's expected, even made me more upset. When this happened to Tabiso, he wasn't alone. There was a crowd of people
Standing right there.
you know, and that further made me upset. So I thought, I can't be like them, can't be a bystander. So that's what kind of led to some of my thinking, some of my feeling. And honestly, the approach from the bar on the day, you know, all we wanted to go there to do is get an apology and ask them to recommit to training the staff or to address it.
Yeah.
And we were met with a very different response, which I think further aggravated the situation. So it's complex. My feeling on it is I'm just happy that there's the necessary amount of attention coming to this issue. And it's bigger than what just happened at Hanks. It's certainly bigger than me. It's not about me. It's about Tabiso and all the other Tabisos in South Africa and Cape Town in the world. And hopefully that there are less people that have that kind of experience.
Yeah.
Where do we write off a generation? I remember Peter Dirk-Ace once said that South Africans are terminally racist across the board. That it's so wired into this kind of ecosystem that we can't move beyond it. Yet you look at young children in a space, and my kids are 2, 3 almost, and 5. They have no concept of this world, this crazy world that we're talking about right now. How do we start this? Is it holding the University of Kentucky liable then? Not just that woman, but the institution that she's representing. Is that where we go? How does society need to mark this? We can all do it as individuals, but we can't change an entire society. So what does government need to do? What does society, what big thing needs to happen? Or is this a battle that needs to be waged mano a mano?
So one of the things we also need to remember is that society is made up of people. Government is filled with people.
With bias. Yeah.
Institutions are filled with people. So if you want to make structural change, you need to change the people. And that is unlearning and beginning to unlearn our problematic ways of thinking and believing. Racism is a learned behavior. We learn from our parents and from our family who to treat and how to treat them, right? And so the saying to say it's better to raise strong children than to fix broken adults, I do think there might quite possibly be a generation that needs to be just written off. Like, it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
Ours is a generation that is seeking to do better. And so if we're conscious of the fact that these are learned behaviors, these are socialized behaviors, we need to begin to teach and behave and be with each other in a much more loving, much more wholesome way that is conscious and interrupts these unconscious things of us thinking, oh, black person, threat, danger, oh, white person, busman, inferiority. We need to unlearn those things, right? And that requires work. That is a daily commitment. That is daily practice of self-awareness. And that is how you begin to change society, because we think government, we think society, we think institution, yes, but all of that is made up of many individual peoples. All of those individual peoples in those structures need to make this commitment. And only then will you find lasting change, because currently we're just trying to shift the outcomes of thoughts and feelings. Because I feel myself inferior, I think myself inferior, I behave in an inferior way. My behavior will not change unless I'm able to shift my mind and my heart. And that's effectively how I think we would change the world and society, if we begin to understand that all of these big things, we have created them. It's made up of people. And so if we can all agree as people that we love each other, want to be better with each other, and want to be more caring with each other.
And I'll tell you one thing, maybe COVID has given us this breathing room, this gap to think, but maybe 3 years ago, young people that I met couldn't see a better future for themselves. The young people that I'm meeting today don't care what anyone else thinks about their future. They're going to do it for themselves.
Not concerned.
So maybe the golden generation that's going to be taking over, there is hope for you. For the rest of us, we're going to sort this out. I promise you by the end of the day, we will have one insight that is going to help us move forward. Now, the bottom line is, just having this conversation is moving forward, but you've got to continue this in your space with your kids. That's the bottom line. We'll continue in a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for weighing in. If you have on our social media platforms, this has been a fiery discussion, but one we need to have. We are honing in on racism in post-apartheid South Africa. When last did you even hear that? That's how crazy it is. Featuring writer, poet, and activist, and our friend of the show, Ashanti Kunene, as well as Christopher Logan, who I want to call Christopher Nolan for some reason, the brave young man who you may have seen him online standing up against racism I'm going to say to protect the dignity of his friend. That's at the heart of what you did, was stand up for a mate, but you did it in a way that has grabbed the attention of the world, which is awesome. I love the fact, but I love the fact that you're also quite embarrassed about having to sit here and talk about it, because everyone should be doing that. So dude, just well done for being in this space.
Thank you.
Day of Reconciliation is coming. Hey, is it? Is the day of reconciliation coming, Ashanti? I keep giving you these massive questions.
I know,
I'm so
and
sorry.
you're only
but
giving me short time to answer such juicy things. Listen, a question. Why do we celebrate reconciliation when we clearly have not reconciled?
Yeah.
That's an invitation for people to reflect on what is the nature of this reconciliation if clearly we have yet to reconcile, right? And I think one of the issues or the struggles we have as people is that we struggle to let go of the story we have been told about who we are and our place in the world.
Yeah.
That of being a master or that of being a victim has now become part of our comfort zone. So moving past your comfort zone, because uncomfortable is something you don't want to do, even if inside my comfort zone is pain or guilt or regret, or whatever that looks like, right? So just on Reconciliation Day, I invite everybody, please just ask yourself, in what ways have you reconciled with the other people of the South African family in your life? Have you done so? And if not, why not? What is the issue?
Doesn't have to be a big thing.
Doesn't
Can be a
just
small thing.
for your own self.
Your click, yeah.
How reconciled is your life?
Maybe we can make this a more practical session as well, because I know there's something great that Mzansi can take from this, right? So we were speaking about it earlier. You're talking about unlearning, changing the narrative. We don't want to necessarily just write that, that generation off yet. What can we do to still create this change? Because clearly it's coming from the youth, it's coming from that young identity, which doesn't only associate with that pain that you mentioned, but there is a way forward, there is a belief. Chris, is this something that you have with regards to, like, let's say, a conversation in the family? Is this something you guys actually bring up? Do you have those uncomfortable conversations about, listen, this is what I actually went through, this is how I feel about it, what's your opinion? Is that something we can comfortably converse with, or is it still I don't know how I'm gonna bring this forward, maybe wait for a moment or an opportunity? What's your position when it comes to this, man?
Yeah, I think it's very important to kind of face these things. And even in the past, if a friend of mine has kind of said something or we want to have a conversation, it doesn't always have to be such a heated conversation, but there still has to be a conversation.
Yeah.
You still have to be able to, you know, what happened kind of with me and Tabiso is a very heated, intense moment. But they can be more calmer family moments where you honestly can express your views and that everyone can kind of move forward and get a sense of actually, how do we deal with this? How do we discuss it? People are scared to kind of say what they think and feel, and I think we need to figure out how to have these conversations.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, I have two core principles in life: open, honest conversations about difficult things, especially when we say we love each other, and moral accountability. And how we practice these two principles is that I will meet you at your light and approach you with love. Because I know what happens to me if you come at me left.
Yeah.
You come at me wrong, I know what my shadow does.
I'll
Do you
fucking-
understand?
yeah.
So I don't want to do that to people, and difficult conversations are already difficult as they are. And if we say we love each other, we must be able to talk about it.
Maybe that's how you rise above. The love can be you rising above. That's
Yeah.
where it can end.
Yeah.
That's where it can
I
end. Not
think
in
so.
enduring,
Yes.
but in rather loving. I absolutely love that. Can you guys stick around for another 2 hours? We're kind of getting to our first questions answered here. This really is a difficult one to wrap up and summate. I think maybe we do have an opportunity, as you said, the day of reconciliation is here. So let's start thinking about what we need to do to truly reconcile in that space. But thank you so much for starting this conversation with us, and hopefully this will continue in the homes of everyone who is watching right now. I think something that just keeps jumping out in my own mind is representation. If you're a filmmaker, if you're a storyteller, if you're a company, if you're a businessman looking to be a mentor, to guide someone up that trajectory, think about the society that you are presenting to the world, the company, the brand, the people that you are pushing forward. Think about that if you are sitting in a position of privilege. Now we're going to start a whole nother conversation about privilege. Now that we'll do next week, but thank you so much for everyone who waited. You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much for having
Keep
us.
fighting the good fight, people, and so we will continue this conversation online and on our WhatsApp line, 0634088860. Drop us an insight if you have got one.